You have to let yourself get so bored that your mind has nothing better to do than tell itself a story. Which is a fancy way of saying your brain needs to shut up for a second. Nowadays, our phones take up a big part of our lives. According to online screen time statistics, the average person spends at least 6 to 8 hours a day looking at a screen. We consume, we watch, we read, we listen, and all that to fill the silence in our brains, day in, day out. Back in 1999, famous author J.K. Rowling took a train from Manchester to London, and the image of a scrawny young boy just happened to pop into her head. And back then, there were no TikTok feeds or Netflix episodes to look through, so she had 4 hours on that train to just think about this boy and his story. Think about this. 4 hours. No distractions, just thinking. This exact moment led to the creation of the now globally renowned Harry Potter. And here we are having to constantly overstimulate ourselves every second of each day just to keep ourselves from being bored. Think of everything you could have done, achieved, or created if you just let yourself be bored. Mind you, not anyone can be the next J.K. Rowling, but there's just so much hidden potential that you're not tapping into because all we worry about are the Family Guy episodes on Instagram. Listen man, I've seen Peter Griffin falling down the stairs more often than I've seen myself succeed at something. There's one major reason why boredom feels so tough right now, and I want to dissect that for you so you can start living and creating again. You and I are actually very similar. Judging from the fact that you're watching this video, that probably means that you're either a content creator, musician, photographer, anything that requires you to create something. And instead of creating that one thing that you want to create, you're here watching this video in the hopes that I give you the golden tip to get out of your rut and blast you off into stardom. Unfortunately, I cannot guarantee your success. But what I can say for sure is that scrolling endlessly through these videos is not gonna help you at all. If anything, I do this too. It's like constantly clamping onto the desire that one of these videos will suddenly unlock my chakras and I will flow into the avatar state. But that's not even the worst part. This exact state of overconsumption is just keeping you small. You know, research might feel productive, but it's just your brain gaslighting itself into thinking you're doing something. Inherently, it gives off the same type of dopamine as your doomscrolling habit. Man, this feels good in the moment. But when you put your phone down, what do you actually feel? Productive? Inspired? Motivated? Don't think so. So before you click off this video after that little reality check, let me help you break free from this cycle of overstimulation. I want to reiterate that you're not uncreative, unworthy, or stupid. Your brain is just in a constant state of fight or flight. That's what those dopamine hits do. I mean, that's how our ooga booga brains are programmed. Dopamine works alongside hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline. While noradrenaline is mostly related to life-threatening situations, adrenaline can also activate in less dangerous moments. And those TikTok and Instagram feeds are not designed to keep you entertained. They're designed to keep you stressed and watching. The brain perceives this constant flow of information, whether good memes or bad news, as addictive. Every content piece releases a small amount of dopamine, which feels incredibly good in the moment. However, here's the twist. By continuing this endless scroll, your brain stays in a permanently stressed and hypervigilant state. The constant dopamine overloads the brain and creates that connection with the fight or flight response. So, ironically, these good hormones all lead to an anxiety-inducing feedback loop, leading to symptoms like headaches, stress, muscle tension, or a feeling of helplessness. So what does this have to do with boredom and creativity? Well, imagine that you're a plant and you need sunlight and water to grow strong. Sunlight is something you can't really influence, so you just put yourself in the windowsill and hope for the best. However, water is something that's always close by, so your little plant brain thinks that the more water you take, the more you grow. So you decide to hook up a hose to the faucet and leave it on permanently into your soil. What do you think happens next? You drown. Your brain is now a swamp, congratulations, you're Shrek. What? This is exactly what happens with your real brain. You're not giving yourself any sunlight or room to breathe. So you're quite literally drowning in information. Scrolling isn't necessarily a bad thing if kept to a healthy amount, but we both suck at keeping ourselves accountable, and that's why we're here right now. Boredom, on the other hand, creates creativity because it forces your brain to stop reacting and start acting on its own. So what's your number one boredom killer? Reels? YouTube? Games? Be honest. Like the example of J.K. Rowling, when you remove that TikTok feed and all the other distractions, your brain starts to create its own entertainment, like memories, questions, or thoughts. But the first minutes, maybe even weeks or months, will feel incredibly uncomfortable. And that's unfortunately just a withdrawal symptom that your brain is experiencing. So if you want ideas again, you don't need more input. You need more time to process the input that you already have. Unfortunately, that begs another question. How do I do this without throwing my phone into the garbage bin and going up into the mountains to live like a monk? Because I ain't doing all that. I like my Wi-Fi and anime. I'm actually still struggling with the perfect fix myself, so if you have any tips for others, then please leave it in the comments below. So a lot of gurus on the internet will kind of tell you the same handful of tips to fix this issue. Either you put your phone on black and white mode, which in my opinion doesn't really change anything. You put a timer on your apps, which again is very easy to bypass if you really want to. You either disable your notifications, you delete or hide apps, you touch grass, you drink water, buy my course. When you're addicted to dopamine, it is very easy to just bypass all of these things. Or you'll find other ways to create dopamine, like ordering junk food, watching porn, or sometimes even gambling. On top of that, I'm actually in a long-distance relationship myself, so am I just supposed to delete social media and give up my relationship? That's basically all I have. I basically have to say, hey, I'm weaker than this little device in my pocket. If I were to delete all my apps, my girlfriend will delete me. So instead, here are a couple pieces of advice that I found to be way more effective when it comes to making your dopamine receptors heal. Firstly, and this may sound a little silly, but when you catch yourself starting to scroll, audibly tell yourself, no. Whenever I do this, it gives me this little moment of realization, this shock almost, and it basically makes me want to stop scrolling altogether because I'm just angry at myself. You can even go a step further and do some breathing exercises afterwards, or maybe even give yourself a little pep talk after you stop scrolling. Hell, it can be anything. Take a shower, make some food, go for a walk, pet your cat. Anything that's just not scrolling. Next, a tip I actually learned from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, which is create an environment where scrolling just becomes that little bit annoying to do. Putting your phone charger in another room, or leaving another object where you would normally scroll, like a book, a journal, or even a dumbbell. Just make the default autopilot action of scrolling less visible. Your phone is always in the perfect spot, whether it's on your nightstand, on the couch, in your pocket. It's just so easy to grab and go to town. My last tip is actually for if you catch yourself scrolling and it's already a little too late. So when you find out, you must force yourself to extract one positive thing from your scrolling session, which could be a content idea, a quote, a travel spot, just anything that makes you feel more productive after you've stopped scrolling. Hell, maybe even a long form video or movie to watch later. This turns your scrolling session from a bunch of nonsense into something slightly meaningful. It's not ideal, but it can help prevent that whole negative spiral after you wasted an hour doing nothing. So, if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video, is that creativity doesn't just magically disappear. It gets drowned out by all the noise. Boredom actually gives it the space to come back. And think about it. Your best ideas have probably come from a time where you were showering or walking or staring out of a window. We've trained ourselves to kill those silent moments immediately. So our brain never gets the time to actually think. So if you want more ideas, you don't need more input. You need empty, purposeful space. And then it's also important that you don't end up a perfectionist like me who spends his entire days in overthinking mode. But I've made another whole video about that if you feel like that's for you. So make sure to go and try these exercises for 7 days and then come back and tell me your findings. Also, don't forget to comment down below if you have any advice for other people. And while you're down there, please tell me if any of these tips proved to be helpful. And if they didn't, then you're just a lost cause. I'm just kidding. I hope you can find your inner creative spark again. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if this video personally attacked you, and I'll see you in the next video. Sayonara.